Welcome back to my second action figure review. Today I want to look back on a older figure in my collection. This is Bane from the Last Night on Earth comic. That's where this version of Bane appears from. This was not a solo release figure. This was a build figure. And the reason I want to look back at this figure is mainly because this was my first ever build figure I ever completed. And it holds this place in my heart of all the fun memories of putting this together and being introduced to methods that I have never thought I would ever use. For example, the hot water method. If you have collected figures for a long time, you would have heard of these methods, such as the hot water or the hair dryer, because they help with loosening joints, stiff joints, tight joints on figures. But they also help with putting a figure together, surprisingly. The hot water method was really the component to why I was able to put this thing together, because when this figure came out as a build figure, this was the talk about figure that was hard to put together because everything just didn't want to stay together. I can't say the same for other people's experiences. For me, it worked just using hot water. And the places that, or the areas that were pretty much the difficulty to assemble or to make stick together on this figure were, of course, the first thing I'll say, the leg pegs, or the pegs on his legs, because these are what forms the die cuts for him to swivel. Those pegs would not go in if you did not heat up the top part of these two legs. They would not fudge in. If you try to put it in with force, I think it could have worked. I'm not sure. I never did it, assembled it the basic way that we would all try to assemble a figure, right? Just put the pieces together. But I think it could have worked. And then the area where the hands wouldn't stay together with the arms. So the hands, as you can see right here, is fist hands. They would not go in and stay tightly in there. So the suggestion that I saw from a video was doing the same thing again, using hot water on the mouth of both these arms, and then putting the peg from the hand pegs into the socket, and it would hold after it cools off. So these were kind of the core issues of putting this figure together. However, with that aside, aesthetic wise, when it comes to sculpt, when it comes to just the overall presence of what this figure looks like, I think it was worth it. Worth the struggle, because once you have everything in place, it is a hulking, very menacing looking Bane. Even with the limited articulation that this figure has, it still has this overall presence on the shelf that makes you appreciate this figure more. For me, I appreciate it more looking back at it now, having it for, I think this figure came out in 2021. I think. I could be wrong. I don't remember when this build wave came out because it's been a while. So, however, aesthetic wise, it is very, very just nice to look at all the time. For me, I like looking at this thing. It's always on my table, on my desk where I work. So, well, not work, let's just rephrase that, where I use my laptop. So it's always on the side with a couple other figures. Big size figures, of course. So yeah, I really don't know what else to say about this figure when it comes to that. And if you look closely at this, I don't know, my camera will pick this up. There's a lot of texture work on his pants and his I don't know what kind of shirts these are called. My mind is blanking. Yeah, the shirt that he's wearing, it has a lot of texture. And there's texture on his before we go, yeah, texture on his muscles. And you might notice that there's someone on him that is attached to him, which is removable. If you've ever seen the comic cover, I don't know if it's a comic cover, but it's art. There's an art from this comic. He has a buddy that rides on, or not rides on him, but like is on his back. It's Scarecrow. It's a very weird looking Scarecrow. Not like in a bad way, but just this was the first ever Scarecrow that this line also got too. It wasn't just the Bane. Speaking of Bane, this is the first Bane that was ever released in this line. To my knowledge, this was. So, because I don't remember any Bane being released prior to this. And it was a very interesting choice. But this is kind of what made me fall in love with this line more, was taking designs we haven't seen before, turned into figures. And one thing I'll say is, this Bane he's not just, chunky, like for a figure. He has weight to him. Like, that torso has weight to him. And it gives him, the arms have weight, the legs have weight. He is a hefty figure. I feel like if I dropped this, it wouldn't break. Well, I'm not going to do that, but that's what I feel when I have this guy, like, holding him. He feels like a brick. As for Scarecrow, he's just kind of like your simple figure. But one thing that you'll say is, oh, where's his legs? Yeah, he doesn't have legs. I don't know why he doesn't have legs. But if you look closely at his torso, I'm pretty sure this might be, I think he's dead. I don't know. He has syringes as his hands. It's kind of cool. They don't articulate. Like, some of them don't move, or they move in conjunction with each other, which, yeah, that's kind of cool. He has a single jointed as well. We'll get into articulation later, but his head is kind of cool. He has this dome thing. I don't know what this is on his head, but one thing I found out from other people who've done reviews on this guy, this is removable. Let me try. There we go. There we go. You can take that off, and you can see his face. It's very. I mean, that's a good face sculpt for like a zombie. Honestly, and if you look at the bottom of his chest area, there's a peg that you can see right there. That's part of this figure. That peg is to recreate the comic cover, because the Bane figure has a peg on his back. So you basically just peg him onto the back of the figure. I'll try to recreate recreate what I did earlier. Let me try. If this works. Oh, there we go. I hope the camera caught that. I'm not looking at the camera. Yeah, he goes in the back just like that. And another design element that this Scarecrow has is the noose he wears on his neck, which, if I remember correctly, did the Injustice 2 version wear a noose on his neck? I could be completely wrong right now. But yeah, aesthetically he looks cool too, and he goes with the Bane. He is one of the wave mates in this build wave. He actually came with the torso, which is why he doesn't have any accessories. And when we talk about flight stands, I believe he also included a flight stand, mainly so you can have him like stationed somewhere if you did not have the Bane assembled, which I guess works. So there's the tag along buddy. Now speaking about the main figure himself, the main man of this review, I guess they're both important, but the main attraction for this figure is mainly the size. I mean, he is hefty. I considered him to be a pretty big figure at the time, because when you have other DC Multiverse figures at the 7-inch scale next to him, he is a tad bit taller than them. But if you compare him to the current Bane that came out not that long ago, he is small. Well, I can't really say he's that small, but you can see this height discrepancy. If I just bring him in, he just moved Scarecrow out of the way. I apologize for this. There is a massive, well, no, I can't actually rephrase that. It's not massive. There's just a difference in height here. You know, it's kind of crazy, right? It's kind of weird seeing them be different heights, but of course they're both from different source material, so you know it makes sense that this was what we were working with at the time, I guess. Because this Bane, when he came out, this was before the concept of mega figures were introduced. The mega figure concept was introduced with the release of the Zack Snyder Darkseid figure. That was when he created this like other line of figures within the DC Multiverse where you would get bigger figures. And that Bane from the Last Night on Earth, or I'm getting it mixed up, from Nightfall Bane, let's correct myself. Nightfall Bane is essentially a mega figure because it reuses the Bane that originally released as a mega figure. It reuses that mold, but retooled. So I will talk more about that Bane in the future. But there you go, size comparisons with that Bane. So this Bane is quite short next to it. Not that short, but kind of weird, right? They're the same character, but different source material. As for articulation, you are not going to really have much articulation with this guy. Oh, I apologize for that. So, if you want to do the splits or anything with his legs, they are not going to happen. These legs will not lift up or down in a kick motion unless you do a type of modification to the pants. I've heard for some people, if you just cut more upward of his pants, it could probably work. I am not going to do that because I only have one copy of this figure and I do not want to break this figure. So I am perfectly happy with him being stationary the way he is. As for the articulation that you can do, he can look down, he can swivel his head side to side, but not like, not like kind of like that. He can't look up because the neck joint, I'm going to pop it off so you can see the neck joint. It doesn't go, it hardly moves. There's like, that's all it does. So it's not going to allow him to look up, unfortunately. His arms, both arms, can get into a T-pose, which is cool. And that's another thing I do want to note. These pegs were stiff when I was putting him together. So the hot water wasn't just to work on the hand socket. It was also to loosen these these pegs for his shoulders, or that's why they can move this easily right now. It wasn't like that when I had these pieces back then. And if you want his arms to move up and down, you can do that. Same thing goes for this side. This thing will hinder it, so there's that. His hands can move, and as you can see right there, because he's single jointed, he has rotation right here, so he can rotate anywhere. He can also bend his arms, not completely 90 degrees, but there is still at least articulation there. And these were also very tight at the time, so I had to use hot water multiple times on this figure for like every single part of him. His hands can rotate completely, but mine are kind of tightly in there, and I do not want them to pop off, but they can rotate. And there is a peg joint right here. I apologize if you can't see this properly, because the lighting in where I'm sitting right now for the setup is very bad. So there's that. And the same for this arm as well, right? You can rotate. This one's a little more tighter. Arms can also, hands can also rotate. And of course, an action figure needs to have rotation in the waist area. In my last video, I called that the waist. It was the chest cut, the upper chest cut. That just shows you how nervous I am. I'm still kind of nervous even filming this, but I feel more confident in myself with this video. So compared to the other figure, not all figures have chest cuts or upper chest cuts. I like to call it that. I don't know what the actual term is. We'll grab Black Manta back over here. There is this cut right here, as you can see, that allows for upper rotation. And of course, there's waist rotation down here with the peg for this piece. Bane does not have that. It is one solid body, so the only part that can rotate is just the waist. So if you hold this up, you can rotate this. So that's the only rotation that he has, and it's mainly for the waist. As for his legs, as I've mentioned, they will not move outward or inward, because the peg and the way that the waist, or not the waist, the waist piece is sculpted for where the sockets are for his legs. They are not able to move out. If you move them out too much, the legs will pop off. But there is thigh swivel. Thigh swivel. And his legs are single jointed. So, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. I popped the legs off. Hopefully I can put it back. Oh God, I have never. Well, this is the first time I ever popped the legs off in the years that he's been on my table. Okay. This is hilarious, but I actually don't mind this. So you can see his legs. They are single jointed. They do have rotation as well, which is kind of interesting. And then bottom part can also rotate. They have a rocker side to side. You can see the toe articulation. I wonder if I can put this back together on camera. I don't think I can. Maybe I can, actually. Oh. Nope. I think I might have to use some hot water again. It's been a long time since I had a problem like this. Oh, never mind. Wait. That's what I'm talking about, because I've loosened it. Look at that. It's back on. Yeah, it is back on there. So that's all the articulation that this guy has. He doesn't really have like anything crazy going on. And it's the same that goes for the other leg too. Single jointed knees. But aesthetically, that's kind of what he looks like. So as for Scarecrow, which I might as well talk about in this video because they go together. Yeah, there's not much articulation with him either, except for like his arms going here and then being able to swivel. The arms can do that. They can do that. The head can turn. It can look up. You can see that neck peg. Oh, I don't think you can see it. But yeah, he can look down as well, which it is, his head articulation is quite hindered when he has his these thing on. I don't know what this is, so, but I think it hinders his head articulation. I'm not sure. I mean, you know what? For the sake of it, let's find out. Because I need to put this back anyways, so let's see how his... There we go. Yeah, there's a little bit of movement, but yeah, you can see that piece right down there. It hinders his head from looking down too much. His fingers have articulation, but they're not that great, unfortunately. His hands also have articulation right there. So that is the articulation section for this figure for Scarecrow. As for Bane, who we've already looked at, in the end of this, no matter how simplistic the articulation is, or basic it feels, this is still a really fun figure to mess with. And as you can see, the legs popped off quite easily, even after using those methods to put it together. But I'm kind of glad I was able to put that back in without having to use hot water again. And that is the first time I have actually popped a leg off in a long time. It's been quite a while, so very fun. And now you can understand why this Build-A-Figure had quite a lot of issues with many people. But in the end of the day, when you put it together, the end result of assembling it together, it is still a cool figure to just have. One last note to end with. I just realized that he has, let me see if I can get a better angle. Let me just, yeah, there we go. He has a bat insignia on his mask. I don't know why. Again, I don't know why. So, if anyone has read this comic and can kind of explain the synopsis of it to me, or just Bane, which is even easier, so you don't have to explain the whole story, that's cool. So if you want to write that in the comments, you can. If not, it's fine. I will Google search this anyways, because I have been looking at wanting to read some of the comics that these figures are based off of for the sake of knowing where the source material comes from. So, well, with that, I will end this video a little bit shorter than my other video, but I hope you've enjoyed this look at Bane from Last Night on Earth with his buddy Scarecrow. And let's just put them back on together. So there we go. That's how it should be. And yeah, that is a look at the Bane. And right, Venom. Wait, before I end this, God, I have more to say. Regarding custom work, I have seen people paint some of the veins green. I do want to do that. I do want to do that. If I find the right paints that work, there might be a video I record of me just painting him, the vein areas on his muscles, because it will definitely make this pop more. So I don't know when that video will happen. Hopefully when it does, when I start doing custom stuff. There will be a better setup where I can record it from a bird eye view. I guess that's what we call it. Excuse me. So hopefully when that happens, this figure will shine even more. But for now, this will always have a place on my table. And with that, I thank you for watching this video. If you want to see more, there will be more reviews of older things and newer things that I have in my collection that I want to archive. So take care, everybody.